So, welcome back, everybody, whether you're here or watching the replay. We have got the second installment, and I'm in my little hot box here. We've got the second installment today of our Organise Anything workshop with the lovely Susan, who you see is on our screens right now. Thank you so much for coming back here, Susan.
You betcha. Love this stuff.
Sharing your organizational expertise. So we covered last week the why, what, and when. Today we're going to cover the last three parts, which is the where, how, and the conclusion. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn my camera off so I can start making a few notes about this, and do get your notepads and pens ready. Remember to take notes because there's lots to absorb. And also, if anybody has any questions, organizational questions, doesn't specifically have to be about this technique, it could be about anything. Susan is an organization expert, whether it comes to rooms in your house, your garage, or your digital organization, whatever that may be. Then Susan is definitely the person to ask. So let's get started, Susan. I will turn my camera off and I will let you take the floor. Thank you.
Okay. Well, like Michelle said, last week we covered the why, like why is this important to you, and the what do you want to tackle and what's going to make you feel better. And then we also talked about when will you start? When is it? When can you start and get get going on your project? So today we're going to talk about the where, and I'm going to list off the steps that I have for this project, this digital, combining all my digital files into one easily found place, and then we'll start with that. So the first thing that I started out with was writing out an outline of the logical steps to take to this project. So, of course, first thing is you've got to set aside the time, which I had done, and then I wrote a note. Okay, I think I'm going to go to the library to work on this so that I can concentrate. It's quiet there, and I won't be as disturbed. And then I would make a list of where I believe all the files are located. Are they in Dropbox? Are they on a flash drive? Are they on my desktop? Are they in Google Drive? So I'm making a list of where I think everything is. And then that way I will also try and think of a rough draft of what topics or subjects might be grouped together. I should know what I've got in my files, so then that's what I would do. So the next step is that you always want to be attentive. Do I need to do this before I do that? It's really frustrating when you think you've got everything set up and then you start and all of a sudden you go, oh shoot, I should have done that other step beforehand. So make sure that what has to be done before you tackle the project. And so for me, I said, oh yeah, I better make sure I've located all the flash drives, because heaven only knows, some might be in my backpack, some might be on my desk, some might be in a drawer. So I want to make sure I have all of those. Everything else is pretty much on the computer. And then, do I have all the necessary tools to start? So since all of this is digital, mostly what I need is time, and maybe something to take notes, a pad of paper or something to take notes on in case I need to figure out things a little bit more. And but I did say that perhaps I would make a folder on my desktop, and all the items I'm not sure of, or depending on where I'm putting all the files, say I'm putting them in Google Drive, I would just make a folder and then I would dump all of those things in there so that I don't waste my time on them at this particular time. That might be another project, but I could get everything organized that I know about. And do I need to ask for help? This is interesting. In the first section, I'm not exactly sure which question it was. It says, do you need anyone to help you with it? And I said, no, but I might want to delegate the transfer. If I'm going to put everything in Google Drive, I may want to delegate the transfer of all my files in Dropbox to somebody else, so that they can transfer them all to my Google Drive, and then I've just got one thing to work with. And then is it better to break down the steps even further to ensure that you are not overwhelmed? And you need to be honest with yourself. Sometimes we think that the steps are just fine as they are, but maybe they do need to be broken down further. And that's one of the things you want to check in with yourself. For me, I thought that I had broken down the steps far enough and that it was good to go. So my next one is how. And this is interesting. So part of it is just need to start. You just need to, whether you think you're prepared or not, sometimes you just need to start. So write down some encouraging words that will allow you to remain focused. So the things that I wrote down were, I have taken the first steps on this project. Remember to reward yourself, pat yourself on the back, give yourself credit. This is really important to me, right? I want to get all my files in one place, and I won't stop till I'm done. I can do this. My future self is so proud of me, and I believe in me, and I am enough. So these are words because I think we tend to doubt ourselves. So this is part of the mindset of, yes, I can do this. And every time I get discouraged, I can come back to these words and I can read them out loud, and I can encourage myself to keep going. So write down your end result and then how finishing this project will make you feel. Well, my gosh, my digital files will be all in one spot. That's amazing. That's wonderful. They'll be easily accessible and I'll be able to find them. And I will feel really, really good when I've completed this project. And I think that's something not to be taken lightly, that inner feeling of success and completion and that you did it. So I will feel amazing when I actually finish this project. And then write down what you will gain when this task or project is complete. And I will gain so much more time and energy because I'm going to be able to find things, right? When I'm looking for a file, it's going to be easy for me to access it and get it. And I don't have to waste 30 minutes trying to figure out where I put it. And then write down the ways you will give this project the attention it deserves and how you stay on track. And this is important because we can get a project done, but then we sort of fall off and we think it's done, it's not important. So the things that I said is I'm going to set aside 30 minutes twice a month to make sure that I've placed all my digital files in the proper file folders and location. And I'm going to do this by setting aside some time on my calendar and making sure the time is non-negotiable. I'm not going to say, oh, well, I'd rather do this, so that's not important. I'm going to make it a priority and tell myself that this time is non-negotiable and I need to do it. And if circumstances force me to miss a time, because life certainly happens, right? Then I am going to immediately prioritize it for the next closest available time, next day, that evening, 2 days from now, but I'm not going to set it out for a month later. And then the other thing that really helps is to post positive thoughts around your space to keep you on track. So I wrote a little note for myself. I will find and post inspiring thoughts around my workspace to remind me of how wonderful the outcome is going to make me feel. So in conclusion, the main thing is to simply start. That's all you can do. And you know what? Maybe when you start and you find out that you've answered the questions or laid out the foundation, maybe not in the right way. So what? Just do it again. There's no right or wrong. It's just about, again, remembering how are you going to feel. And if you get overwhelmed, as we've talked about last week and this week, break it down even further. Maybe you need to take smaller chunks of the steps. And that can make you feel good. You can say, well, gosh, I got that done. That's amazing. And then you go on to the next part of the process. If you are kind of stuck, it really helps to speak with a friend or a colleague. Sometimes this has happened to me many, many times. I have had a problem and I said, hey, can I talk about something with you to a friend? And as I start to articulate it, all of a sudden I've solved my own problem simply by speaking it out loud. So don't be afraid to ask for someone to listen to you or maybe give you a pointer or two to help you figure it out for yourself. And if you get derailed, again, as I mentioned, life happens and we can't always control the things. Then you just simply pick a new day and time and you start again. You don't beat yourself. You don't get upset. This happens to us all the time in life. We think we're going to do something and something comes up. We can't always control everything. So you just kind of roll with it and you pick a new day, you pick a new time. And then what this whole foundation workbook process is all about is it's about creating habits and processes that flow with your particular work style. How do you work? How do you like to work? What works best for you? And even, again, as I mentioned, if it doesn't quite work out the first time, you're going to find ways that work for you, and you're going to start building yourself a really great foundational base in order to tackle any projects around your house, in your office, in life, right? That's what this is designed to do. So that's pretty much what I have for today.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much for that. I don't know whether you want to pop yourself back on full screen so we can see you, because I got lots of things to discuss here.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, so as you were going through that, again, you made some really super good points.
There we go.
I'm just going to go through them, the start to the finish. Oh, there you are. Okay, so again, we talked about the feelings about this stuff. Connie says, well done, thank you, well done. Well done.
Well, thank you.
We talked about the feelings of this stuff, and then that was also the theme here. I liked what you said about changing location. Like, I would choose to go to the library to do this because I know I'm going to focus more and concentrate more. And I think that's a really good tip, because a lot of people, I think, especially digitally, may not think to themselves, oh, it doesn't really matter where I am because I'm on the computer. You know, I'm working on the computer, so my environment doesn't matter. And 100%, I think the environment matters. And like you said, if you're in a place where you can't focus, if you're in a place where there's too many distractions, if you're in a place sometimes even which is too nice, that, you know, you simply won't want to see, you know. I found this many times. Like, I've been like, oh, I'm going to go and work from the beach, and I'll be super productive, and I'll be in this nice environment and things like that. So I go to like a beach cafe, and then I don't want to work when I'm in the beach cafe because it's just too nice there to work. So sometimes I think, you know, like, as we think about location, I think it's very important to dwell on that for productivity in particular. I really loved what you said about the dump folder. If you said, like, if you put a folder on your desktop, and if you're not quite sure what to do with something, put it in there. And I do that all of the time. Like, and then obviously your dump folder then becomes another project that you've got to, you know, do this process with. But at least that's something that can really hold you back, because sometimes when you overthink like if you're going through documents and then you're like, oh, what do I do with that? Shall I keep it? Shall I not keep it? And then you start thinking too much about the document. Your time is running out. So instead, if you immediately get that, I don't know what to do with this, dump it in the folder. And I'm the same when I'm going through like the kids' toys, or, you know, going through clothes and wardrobes. Immediately I'll know, I don't want that, I'm going to get rid of it. I want to keep that. And if I have this don't know, it just goes in the don't know pile. And then I will finish everything else up and then get to that later. So I think that's a really good tip to keep things progressing and moving forwards, as opposed to like stalling the project and then giving you that feeling that you've not got very far. I also wanted to mention, and I thought this would make a good point, is you talked about asking for help, and you talked about, like, if you, for example, wanted to transfer things from Dropbox to Google Drive, and then you might give that to a VA to kind of sort out for you. There are also, the form of help doesn't always necessarily have to be a person, because there are certain apps and certain tools and plugins and things like that that will, if you found something that's going to help you with the process, like, for example, a tool that migrated all the files from Dropbox into Google Drive or Google Drive into Dropbox, which there are certain tools and things like that out there, then maybe that's a solution if you don't want to go and hire a VA. So maybe look, if you're doing something digitally, look for a tool that might assist you with that as well, and that can be another form or version of help. I really like the encouraging words and rewarding yourself. I do that a lot. Usually my reward is a glass of wine rather than words of encouragement, but I'm going to start doing the words of encouragement as well. And I really liked the point what you said about what you can gain from this. And you were going through that really triggered me, because I thought to myself about a certain project. It's a real life project that I really have to get to, which I've been procrastinating on, I'm going to say, for more than a year or a couple of years. But that made me really think, what will I gain once I be able to do this? Which I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I'll do that in the next part. There was a final thing that I wanted to say about when you said about when you start answering or your own questions. Like if you start talking to them, and I do that all the time. I'm a messagey person. I do calls during the day and things like that. But beyond that, I'll message people. And I've done it so many times where I've opened up the phone and WhatsApp, and I've opened it up and I said to a friend, I got this problem, I wonder if you can help me out. Like, yeah, okay, no problem. Okay, so I've got this, this, and this, and what would you do? Would you choose this one or this one? Oh, but yeah, this one has this problem with it, so the other one would probably be better. And that also would have this problem, so definitely the other one would be better. Okay, I'm done, thank you. And they haven't said, and all these messages are still unread. So you're at the point where you've literally had an entire conversation with yourself, but it's almost like the mental idea that someone else is there with you, listening to you, regardless of whether they say anything or not, that you suddenly fix it because you talk yourself through the process.
Absolutely.
So go on.
No, it's just funny how, especially if you're talking out loud.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking it in your head.
Yeah.
And then the person on the other end is like, oh, okay, you're welcome, honey.
Yeah. All I did was listen to that. But it's so true. So going back, we've got a little bit of time. We've got 10 more minutes on this call. So I want to talk to you about this project that I was thinking of. Now, I've got hard drives with so many photos. So obviously, I've had 16 years of children, that started from the beginning, and I have all these old hard drives where we used to take pictures with a digital camera, and then the digital camera got full, we put them on the hard drive, and we keep throwing them on the hard drive. And now some are in the cloud because eventually modern day technology came out and we were using phones instead of digital cameras. So I've got some in the cloud, I've got some in hard drives. The thought of just opening up those hard drives is something I would love to do, but I know there's a ton of photos on there, and it's not hard going through photos of your kids and, but I'm almost like, well, what would I even do? Like, where would I start? How would I categorize them? We'll talk about that in a second, but going back to the point of gaining, I do things like I make Christmas calendars and things like that, and, with these photos and yearbooks, and like all these things that you do for family and friends, about your kids and stuff like that. So it made me think to myself how much easier it would be, rather than every time I go to make one of these things at Christmas, having to go through all these photos and trawl through everything, to find photos that you want to use. You could go to whatever it was, Organized, and just pick out the photos. You'd be able to find them so much easier. And I thought, well, the thing I would gain is I would be able to be way more productive when I go and create these things, for Christmas presents and birthday presents and things like that. So that really made me think, what else can you gain? Like, really thinking about, other than just getting the job done, what can you really gain from this activity? And I think that is an incredible motivator. a huge motivator. So that's now made me really want to get this project done, before Christmas, for example, or before, like we start getting into gift giving seasons and stuff like that. But just as a question, as something I wanted to ask, is if you had a bunch of photos on all these drives and they were basically 16 years worth of pictures of kids and family and God knows what, and you're pretty confident there's duplicates on there because it's never been organized, where would you begin with that?
That's interesting because I have a ton of digital photos of my grandchildren, so
Okay. So
I get that.
Yeah.
But I think I would start out with either events or years, like or categorize a year, or because you've lived all over the world, right?
Yeah.
Then maybe you pick a country and you say the year, country and the years, and these are the years, and then you subcategorize. These are pictures of this child or that child, or this is this event. We went here, we went there. Yeah. And you could just have even random playtime photos, or even something as simple as that, fun times, and just they could just be all sorts of random photos from, and it might make it easier if you're thinking, oh yeah, because I imagine, I don't know for you, but because you've lived everywhere, you might think, I remember when we were here and we took that photo, right?
Yeah.
If you were looking for something specific, and it might be easier to go back to a location.
Because I was thinking if I was putting them, for example, into Google Drive, which, I think that would be my long-term intention. I'm guessing, because you've only got like one photo, you don't want to make duplicates of that photo and put them in multiple folders. You technically want one go-to place for that. I think it would probably make sense to do it by year and then have subfolders within them, which could be, I suppose a lot of them as well are like group photos, which had, several of the kids in. So maybe you'd want to then do it year, and then like you said, I think doing it by individual wouldn't work because some would be in like lots of different ones. So maybe, like the events thing might work, or like you say, I've been in many different locations. So what location was I in, during this period of time? So it might be, like 2016 Greece. And then it might be on the beach, or, birthdays, so-and-so's birthday or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you just get a big category first, like a main, like you said, the year.
Yeah.
And switch everything into years first.
Yeah.
Like get that part done, so then you know that you've got them all in the right years, and then you'll be able to see more easily if you have duplicates.
Yeah.
And take it from there. Like that's something definitely would be like a big overall, and then definitely a breakdown.
Yeah, and I think just running through that, it really does show how important this process that you've outlined really is. Because if I'm doing something like this, if I go through your process, I'm going to be able to think this through and organize it before I've even done it. And then when you know exactly what you're going to do, then it's just like pop, 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 like get it done. Whereas if you're not, the length of time it can take when you just simply plug in a drive and then open it and think, oh, what, what am I going to do here? And you start, doing something, and then you realize, oh, that's not going to work. I started putting all pictures of Theo, my son, in one folder. Then I realized, well, that's not going to work because Cash is in that and Layla's in that one, and so then I have to go back and do it all again. But the process of actually planning it out, thinking it through, it actually makes the activity go from, oh God, to like, no, this is going to be fun, and I'm feeling super organized and super accomplished just at the point of doing this plan. Just filling this workbook out is just going to get me to the point where I feel like this is way more manageable than I imagined it would be when I'm just sitting with the overwhelming idea of multiple hard drives and cloud drives and things with all these photos on, and they're all mixed up and jumbled up and duplicated, and yeah, it just makes it feel like way more achievable. And like you say, you know, we said in the last one, just carving out, even if it's just an hour a week, where you sit in an environment where you're able to sit and focus and concentrate. You turn everything off. You know, the world can take care of itself for an hour, and you just focus on that. You know, it really does help to get things done. So I'm super excited about this workshop. I know what my project is now from this. I hope everybody watching this replay has also now thought to themselves, I've got a project that I want to tackle. Small or big, I don't think it matters. But yeah, it's just given so much food for thought. And honestly, I've organized things in work and business and things like that, but I never took the approach of actually planning to organize things myself. You know, I've got this wardrobe right now full of clothes, which are from tiny through to huge, you know, like when I was before babies and after babies and everything in between. And, you know, I'm on the process right now of really wanting to focus on my weight and lose weight and get to where I want to be. And it's really and I just thought to myself, oh, I'll just go through and, you know, take out some clothes that I think are too big. But now it's really made me think about other things. You know, is my wardrobe at the end going to be a rewarding wardrobe where everything inside it is something that I really want to wear, you know, and I can wear, and it's going to motivate me forward. And maybe I need to just dump things out that I just don't like. I'm a big one for keeping stuff because it fits, you know, even if it's outdated and old and I wouldn't wear it again and I don't like it, it's always in there because I think it fits, so that's going to stay in there. But now it's made me think, actually, be more mindful of this project, and, you know, and to actually create a wardrobe at the end of it that I'm going to open and really love. And it doesn't matter if there's not a lot in there, it's the start of a wardrobe that I'm going to love. Really made me think, Susan. I loved this workshop. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Does anybody have any final questions before we wrap up this session? Anything that they want to share or ask Susan before we close off for today? We'll hang around for another minute or so, just in case anybody has any final questions or anything that they want to ask Susan. Yes. Okay, Connie says, I'm working on a similar project. Helpful tips. I found them super helpful. Anna says, thanks, Susan. I will listen to this talk again since I was late. Yes, and also don't forget as well, we have the first one. So definitely, if you guys ever want to take this workbook and sit down and plan it, you know, plan it out for yourself, absolutely do come back to these replays to refresh yourself. You know, I made lots of notes, but at the same time, it's always good to go back and listen. They're not too long. We made this really bite-sized to make it really super manageable for you. But yeah, make this your new way of organizing your work, your home, and everything else in between. So thank you so much, Susan. It was lovely to see you, and hopefully we'll be doing some more of these as we move through. Take care.
All right. Well, thank you. I had fun.